Hi. By now you've watched the intro video, and so now what I want to do is go over the curriculum for the class. So our class has two textbooks in it. The first is the McKinnon textbook. Now this textbook is a little tricky because you need the online access code to get all the materials in it. So the way you need to do this is you need to go to the bookstore or order it online through the bookstore, and you need to get the online access code. Now the access code will give you online access to the online version of the book. So you don't have to have the hard copy of the book. As long as you have that code, that's all you need. Okay. The bookstore makes it a little bit confusing by adding a few different sorts of codes. If you have questions, please talk to someone at the bookstore to help you out finding the right one. But the code will help you get access. There's a video on Blackboard from the company that does this that helps you log in better. But you can email me as well, but please watch the video first. Essentially, you'll get in the Blackboard, you'll click any of the assignments that go to MindTap, and in MindTap, you'll type in your information, and you'll join our course. All the chapter quizzes will be through MindTap. You'll also have what's called Appella quizzes. So Appella quizzes are sort of like study guides for the chapter quizzes. The Appella quizzes are a lot easier. They're kind of meant to be done as you're reading, to be honest. But the McKinnon textbook is very good, and we're going to read selected chapters from there. Apart from that, you are going to read a second book. Now here's where my class will deviate from a lot of other classes in that I really do want to give you options in this. So I've attached 7 or 8 optional textbooks on the bookstore list and our syllabus. So you can choose any of these books as your second book. You can also suggest a different book for your second book. So if you read the 8 and you're like, none of these look interesting, I'm really interested in topics B, and this would be a great book, it would fit right in, can I read this? Just email me and I can give you permission to do it. The books I have chosen were chosen because they are pretty diverse in their authors. They're also chosen because they have some relevance for ethics. They're also chosen because not only do they have some relevance for ethics, but they hit on a topic that we might not get as much in as class. So trying to fit a kind of niche area for us. The books are as follows. I kind of want to talk about them very briefly so you have an idea. The first one is by John Corvino, Ryan Anderson, and Sharif Gurgis. And so this book is called Debating Religion, Liberty, and Discrimination. So if you're familiar at all with the Masterpiece Cake Shop Supreme Court case recently, the Colorado baker who wouldn't bake the cake for the homosexual couple there, and now there's something with I think that case was settled, but now there's additional cases as well in that area. That's going to fit right in line with this. The reason why I put this book first, and this is the book I would recommend that you read. So you can do any of them, but if you read the descriptions and you can't decide, I'd recommend this one. And I recommend it because Corvino and Anderson are on 2 different sides of the issue. So Corvino would probably be more on the progressive liberal side, and Anderson would be more on the conservative, maybe traditional side or something like that. And they're both really good philosophers. They both have good degrees. They teach philosophy. They're good scholars. And they talk about this issue and they debate it with each other. And so one chapter is like Corvino, and then the next chapter is Anderson, and they kind of go at it. It's a really good example of sophisticated ethics. It's also a good example of how ethics applies to public policy. It's also a good example of how people can radically disagree, but still have a respectful, intelligent argument with one another without shouting at one another. So I think that's fantastic. So regardless of where you are in that issue, that book should appeal to you. The third book, or the next book, is a book by Jordan Peterson. This is a book I wanted to put because it's actually the best-selling book in America right now. It's really popular. I have read this one. It's not for everyone, but like I said, it's a best-selling book, so a lot of people have enjoyed it. It's called 12 Rules for Life. This book is really a practical guide of just how to live life. It's definitely more geared for men than women. Women have read the book and enjoyed it, but I want to point out that if you're a man, this book probably will appeal to you more. Peterson, he is stigmatized as a conservative. I'm not sure that is the best title for him, but certainly conservatives probably will like him more than liberals, although I'm not really convinced of that. So I don't know that he has like the partisan divide exactly, but he does have a stigma for being conservative. He's a psychologist at the University of Toronto. He's a really big public speaker right now. You may have heard of him. If you're familiar with like Joe Rogan or Ben Shapiro, Eric Weinstein, he's kind of involved in those people, with those people in like that kind of group. So this book has a lot to do with psychology, a lot to do with a sort of psychological interpretation of the Bible, even. It has some Bible-y stuff in it. It also has a lot to do with philosophy and ethics about how we should live our life. It talks a lot about Nietzsche and Freud and Dostoevsky and Solzhenitsyn. The last one's hard to pronounce. But it's a really impactful book, and I would encourage you to consider that one. The fourth is by Steven Pinker. And so I'm going to do this with every author just so you kind of know, but Pinker is going to appeal, I shouldn't say appeal, Pinker's book will be better receptive by progressives and liberals than conservatives. Conservatives can still enjoy this, and they should enjoy this. So Pinker's book's called Enlightenment Now, and so it's a pretty thick book. You should know that, but the book's all about the history of the Enlightenment, why the Enlightenment's so great, why the West is so great, and he kind of ties all back to the Enlightenment. It's a lot about science and humanism and progress. There is a chapter about sort of why science and humanism and sort of atheism is the way forward, and not religious and not religious morality. And so if you are more religious, if you are more conservative, there are going to be certain elements of this book that you might not naturally be inclined to agree with, and that's okay. But I would encourage you to read it. I would encourage everyone that if there's a book that you would probably disagree with, to not tune it out immediately. It's good to read stuff that you disagree with. It is thick though, so that's my only real warning, is that it's a thick book, probably 500 pages. The fifth book is Jonah Goldberg's Suicide of the West: How the Rebirth of Tribalism, Populism, Nationalism, and Identity Politics is Destroying American Democracy. It's a really good book. It's like a teal, light blue color if you've seen it in Barnes & Noble. Goldberg is an editor at the National Review, which is a conservative journalism website thing, a magazine. And Goldberg is certainly a conservative, so he's going to appeal more to conservatives. But the book is really tailored also for people that aren't traditionally conservatives to enjoy and benefit from too. So if you're progressive or a liberal, there are probably going to be some elements that you're not as comfortable with. And again, I encourage you to try it and not let that dissuade you, because it's a really good book. So this is similar to Pinker's book of talking about sort of where we are in America and the West and how the Enlightenment has influenced us. So he quotes Pinker a lot actually in the book. But the book is not really at all related to God. And so the first line in this book is, "There is no God in this book." So just because it's a conservative book, don't think the religious ties here. But it's a really interesting book, a lot about economics, a lot about politics, a lot about morality. And so certainly I think it'd be a really interesting read if you're interested in politics and economics. 6 is David Baggett's The Morals of the Story. This is a new book. I've not read this version. I've read his more academically rigorous one on this. But this is a more readable one, so I figured I'd put it on here instead. But Dr. Baggett, he's a professor of philosophy, and this is all about sort of how morality proves that God exists. And so this is an argument that we're going to read about in the class and watch, and not watch, but we'll understand better in the class. And so if you're interested in religion and ethics and how those work together, this would be a book for you if you are religious. 7's Peter Singer, Ethics in the Real World. So Peter Singer is a really prevalent ethicist. He's the chair of ethics at Princeton. He is one of the big founders of the animal rights movement. And so if you love animal rights, I think Peter Singer would be a great author for you. He also has another book called Animal Liberation that I would approve if you wanted to read all about animal rights. I meant to put it on here, but I decided not. But if you are interested in animal rights, I would encourage you to read his other book. But this has 82 different essays on I think 80 different topics or 40 different topics, something like that. And animal rights is several of them. But they're brief essays. This is not a very big book. I know it has 82 essays and that sounds long, but it's probably 200 pages, 250, something like that. Singer is going to be someone that will probably appeal more to liberals, I would imagine, but he is a really big name in ethics, so anyone should feel welcome to read him. But he's going to come out on a lot of places that more progressives will come out, and like public policy issues. So you should know that. Jonathan Haidt has a book called The Righteous Mind, and he really deals with this problem of when people like liberals and conservatives, when they when they fight and yell and they get mad about whatever moral or political issue, he tries to understand why are these issues so divisive, and what can we do to bridge this gap. And this is an excellent book. This is for conservatives and liberals. It's my understanding that across the spectrum, there's praise for Haidt and his book. I don't think, to my knowledge, I don't know that liberals or conservatives would be more, inclined to agree or disagree with him. But this is a really good book talking about kind of the psychology of when we disagree on morality, which is really interesting. They're all really good books. The big books that I would just say, Goldberg and Pinker are both bigger books. So I would love for you to read them. I think they're fantastic, but you do have to be aware of there's a little bit longer. Okay. Now what you're going to do with these books is pretty simple. You're going to read them, and I give you certain times in the semester to read them. I give you like 3 or 4 weeks of just reading and writing, and you're going to write a 4 to 6 page book review. So that's in the syllabus. So when you read the syllabus, look over that book review, and you're going to turn that in. Okay. So that's a big portion of your grade. One of the main reasons for this is that I want you guys to practice just reading comprehension skills of reading a book that is related to ethics, has a lot of relevance, and that will enhance your learning, but will also will not only enhance your reading comprehension, but just see the scope of ethics and how broad it is. I find that a lot of students, I teach at a few colleges, a lot of my students are very good at checking the box on certain things, but a lot of them don't have a lot of experience in just reading and reading comprehension skills and writing skills. And so I hope this is a really beneficial assignment for you guys. I'm looking at the schedule. I give you 4 weeks to turn in to read, where I just say work on reading in paper. So I don't give you anything else but reading in paper. So that's, if you look, March 10th, April 7th, 21st, 28th. And then you turn in your paper by the end of the semester on May 17th. Okay? So I'm not trying to overload you, overbear you. I don't think this semester is. I think you'll find the first 4 weeks, you'll be doing chapter quizzes and some video stuff. And then after that, the videos go away, and then you're going to start reading. I hope you enjoy these books. If you want to read a different book besides these, feel free to email me, but I'm very excited that you're reading these books, and I'm excited that we're going to be doing this class together this semester. So thank you very much.